Before McDonald's, before seed oils, before 8-hour desk jobs, the Romans were conquering the known world with bodies that would put most modern athletes to shame. They didn't have personal trainers, they didn't track macros on an app, they didn't take heart medication. And yet somehow, the disease that kills more people today than anything else barely existed in their world. Heart disease now claims one life every 33 seconds in America, 1 in 4 deaths, the #1 killer of men and women across the developed world. But here's the uncomfortable question nobody wants to ask. What if our advanced civilization hasn't made us healthier? What if it's actually killing us? The answer might be hiding in plain sight, buried in the ruins of Rome. Modern heart disease is relatively new. Before 1900, doctors rarely saw it. By the 1950s, heart attacks had exploded into an epidemic, killing middle-aged men at unprecedented rates. Something changed dramatically in just 50 years. Some researchers blame genetics, others point to better diagnosis. But when scientists started examining ancient mummies from Egypt, Peru, and the Aleutian Islands, they found something interesting. About 34% showed signs of atherosclerosis, the buildup of plaque in arteries. So ancient people did have some arterial issues. But here's what the headlines miss. Those findings were mostly in older individuals, often with chronic infections from parasites and bacteria that trigger inflammatory responses. The mummies of young adults? Their arteries were remarkably clean. Compare that to modern humans. Studies now show atherosclerosis beginning in teenagers, kids in their 20s with arterial damage, people dropping dead from heart attacks in their 30s and 40s. Something has accelerated a slow aging process into a rapid killer. To understand what went wrong, we need to understand what the Romans got right. Picture a Roman legionary in the 1st century. His morning starts before dawn with a horn call at the military camp. After inspection, he begins the march. Not a casual stroll, a military march covering 20 to 30 miles before nightfall. He's carrying roughly 45 pounds of armor, weapons, and equipment on his body. His pack adds another 20 to 30 pounds of rations, tools, and personal gear. Some estimates put the total load at over 100 pounds for a soldier weighing around 145. After marching all day through varied terrain, the legion arrives at their destination. Do they rest? No. They build a fortified camp, digging ditches, constructing walls, setting up defenses. Only then do they eat and sleep. The next morning, they tear it all down and march again. The training standards were brutal. To even qualify as a legionary, a recruit had to march 18 miles in 5 hours, with regular steps while carrying 45 pounds. Then he had to do a fast march of nearly 22 miles in the same time. Modern special forces would recognize this grueling standard. Now consider the average American today. Studies show we walk about 5,000 steps daily. That's roughly 2.5 miles. Our hunter-gatherer ancestors walked 6 to 16 miles per day. Roman soldiers covered 20 to 30 miles under load. We've gone from walking half marathons daily to barely managing a stroll to the refrigerator, and somehow we're surprised our hearts are giving out. But physical activity was only part of the Roman advantage. Their diet was radically different from what fills modern grocery stores. The foundation of Roman nutrition was what we now call the Mediterranean diet. Whole grains like barley and wheat, olive oil used generously in nearly everything, fish from the Mediterranean and rivers, legumes like lentils and chickpeas, seasonal vegetables and fruits, cheese made from sheep and goat milk, wine, almost always diluted with water. The Roman physician Galen, who served Emperor Marcus Aurelius, wrote extensively about the connection between diet and health. He recommended raw salads dressed with oil, honey, and vinegar for proper digestion. He warned that too much red meat, specifically beef, could lead to disease. Olive oil wasn't a condiment for the Romans. It was a proper ingredient. Archaeological evidence from Herculaneum, the city preserved by Mount Vesuvius, shows olive oil made up at least 12% of daily caloric intake. Some estimates suggest Romans consumed 20 liters of olive oil per person per year. Modern research confirms what Galen intuited 2,000 years ago. The Mediterranean diet, rich in olive oil, fish, and nuts, is strongly associated with lower heart disease rates. The 7 Countries study, launched in the 1950s, found that Greeks and Southern Italians practicing this traditional diet had dramatically lower cardiovascular mortality than people in Northern Europe and North America. But there's something the Romans didn't eat that might matter even more than what they did eat. They had no ultra-processed foods, no factory-made snacks engineered for maximum craveability, no soft drinks loaded with high fructose corn syrup, no industrial seed oils extracted with chemical solvents, no foods designed by scientists to override your body's natural satiety signals. Every meal required preparation from whole ingredients. Bread was baked from freshly ground grain. Fish was caught and cooked the same day. Vegetables came from local gardens. Even their famous fermented fish sauce, garum, was simply salt and fish aged over months, not a laboratory creation. Compare this to the modern American diet. Studies show that 60% of calories consumed in the United States come from ultra-processed foods. These industrial formulations contain substances never found in any kitchen in human history: hydrogenated oils, high fructose corn syrup, artificial colorants, stabilizers, emulsifiers, flavor enhancers designed to make you eat more. The Framingham Offspring Study tracked thousands of adults over 18 years. They found that each additional daily serving of ultra-processed food was associated with a 7% increase in cardiovascular disease risk. Eat a few extra servings of packaged snacks, frozen dinners, and fast food daily, and your heart disease risk climbs dramatically. Here's where things get controversial. Before the 1900s, the primary cooking fats were animal fats like butter, lard, and tallow, along with fruit oils like olive oil. Then came the Industrial Revolution in food production. Companies figured out how to extract oil from seeds using chemical solvents and high heat. Soybean oil, corn oil, cottonseed oil, canola oil. These industrial seed oils were cheap to produce and had long shelf lives. They flooded the food supply. By some estimates, the average person now consumes 100 times more linoleic acid, the primary fatty acid in seed oils, than their great-grandparents did. Now, scientists debate whether seed oils themselves are harmful. The American Heart Association says they're fine. Other researchers point to concerning data. The rise of heart disease in the 20th century closely parallels the rise of seed oil consumption. Societies that retained traditional fats showed lower rates of cardiovascular disease. What seems clear is this: the Romans cooked with olive oil, a fruit oil low in omega-6 fatty acids and high in stable monounsaturated fats. Modern populations cook with industrial seed oils and eat processed foods swimming in them. And heart disease has gone from rare to epidemic. Correlation isn't causation, but the coincidence is hard to ignore. Beyond diet and exercise, the Romans had something else we've lost. They moved constantly throughout the day. Roman life didn't include 8 hours of sitting in an office chair staring at a screen. There were no cars, no elevators, no escalators. Every destination required walking. Every task required physical effort. Even entertainment meant walking to the public baths, where they would exercise, swim, wrestle, and play ball games before bathing. The Roman physician Galen recommended sports as an excellent and economical way to stay fit. He wrote an entire treatise on exercising with a small ball. Physical activity wasn't something Romans scheduled into their busy day. It was simply how life worked. Today, the average office worker sits for 10 hours or more per day. We drive to work, sit at desks, drive home, and sit on couches. Our bodies evolved to move almost constantly. We've engineered movement out of existence. Studies show that prolonged sitting, independent of exercise, increases cardiovascular risk. You can hit the gym for an hour and still suffer the consequences of sitting the other 15 waking hours. This phenomenon has been called sitting disease, and researchers estimate it contributes to millions of deaths annually. A Roman legionary would be astonished and probably disgusted by our physical capacity. The average modern person would fail the most basic fitness test required of Roman soldiers. We have smartphones that can access all human knowledge, but bodies that would have been considered disabled by ancient standards. So, what can we actually learn from the Romans? You don't need a gym membership. The Romans built powerful, enduring bodies without barbells, treadmills, or protein shakes. They walked constantly. They carried heavy loads. They practiced combat movements and sports. They moved throughout the day, not just during a scheduled workout window. You don't need complicated diets. The Romans ate simply: whole grains, olive oil, fish, vegetables, wine in moderation. They didn't count calories or macros. They ate real food that their bodies recognized and knew how to process. You do need to question modern food. The Romans never consumed anything designed in a laboratory to maximize consumption and shelf life. Every ingredient in their diet had existed for thousands of years. Can we say the same about the packaged products filling our pantries? Ultra-processed foods now make up the majority of what modern populations eat. Rates of heart disease, diabetes, and obesity have climbed alongside this shift. The Romans ate food that came from farms and kitchens. We eat food that comes from factories. The uncomfortable truth is this: we've created a world of unprecedented convenience that is systematically destroying our health. We sit all day. We eat industrial products our ancestors wouldn't recognize as food. We barely walk a fraction of what humans walked for thousands of years. And then we wonder why our hearts are failing. The Romans didn't have heart disease research grants or million-dollar fitness facilities. They had hard lives that demanded constant movement and simple food prepared from scratch. Maybe the secret to a healthy heart isn't the next pharmaceutical breakthrough or the latest diet trend. Maybe it's doing what humans did for thousands of years before we optimized ourselves into an epidemic. Walk more, eat real food, move throughout the day, cook with olive oil instead of whatever industrial product is cheapest at the grocery store. The Romans conquered the Mediterranean world with these habits. You might just conquer heart disease. If you found this video eye-opening, subscribe for more content exploring how our ancestors might have understood health better than we do. The video appearing on screen right now dives deeper into the Mediterranean diet and why modern science keeps rediscovering ancient wisdom.